Good morning, Kenny.
Good morning, KG.
Welcome to our Red Cup series. This is our second edition where we have conversations with our leaders in the organization, really just getting to know you better, but also getting to understand what's top of mind for you. And today we are I'm having ginger tea. I don't know about you.
It's hot water with lemon, and thank you very much for having me this morning.
Awesome. If it's not hot water and lemon, what else would you sip?
Rooibos, maybe coffee, but I don't like coffee that much. If it was not office time, maybe a nice glass of Chardonnay, and every now and then a nice glass of whiskey.
Love.
But it's still too early for that.
It's still in the morning, absolutely. But I know some people would say it's either afternoon or midday somewhere else, somewhere in the other part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Kenny, so it's been 6 weeks now? Or is it going to 7 weeks since you've been...
We are in the middle of the 7th week since I started at Absa.
Jeebus.
And I'm having fun, enjoying it, meeting wonderful people.
Love
Amazed by the energy that I'm feeling and seeing everywhere within the organization.
Love it. You've actually joined us at the right time because I think the momentum was really starting to pick up in terms of, some of the exciting things that we're doing in the organization, be it purpose, be it culture transformation, really our growth strategy really picking up. I'm very keen just to get your thoughts. I know that you have spoken to many of us, whether it's in the different business excos or in the markets that you've been traveling into, and you've been just giving us a few your first impressions of what you're seeing in the organization. And I'd really like you to just take us into your confidence and maybe just give us a sense of what you've seen so far.
I think there's a lot of positive elements, of my own experience at Absa in the last couple of weeks. I think the first relates to just people. Absa has some amazing individuals who are extremely knowledgeable in what they do, high energy levels, very, very good vibe, and are eager to go out there and win. And I think that's a great asset to have in any organization. I think secondly, I've also met with quite a few clients. They are loyal to the organization, but I think we need to make sure that we continue to keep those clients. And secondly, that we expand our client base, especially in those parts of the business that have been under threat in the last 10 years or so, especially in the retail space. I think the third and exciting element is that the organization has a very stable platform. It is easier to build on the stable platform than to have to stabilize the platform and on top of that think about building and growing. So we've got all the necessary ingredients in place. It is up to us to ensure that we align appropriately. We shift our focus from being internally focused into being externally focused, and ultimately we can only determine whether the organization is successful on the basis of what we do for clients, and that's where our attention ought to be.
Fantastic. I like the consistency in your messaging. I think you have been talking a lot about clients. You've been talking a lot about people. I want to zoom in a bit about the client piece. In fact, I must say that I enjoyed reading the recent article with it was the CEO or the senior editor of East Africa, where you were actually talking about your top 3 priorities. And there's something that actually caught my attention. You mentioned that one of the commitments that you've made to the board was you were going to spend 30% of your time focusing on clients. And you also mentioned that you are also thinking of driving that focus within the organization to make sure that our leaders also think similar to that. Maybe just unpack a bit in terms of practically how is that going to pan out?
Firstly, start with my diary. If within a week there isn't time allocated to dealing with clients or client-related issues and so on, then clearly there's something wrong with where I'm spending my time. And so I always need to strike the balance between ensuring that I engage with the necessary governance issues internally, meeting with regulators, investors, but more importantly, ensuring that I also meet with our own employees as well as with clients. And there's something important about that. If you meet with clients, you get feedback about the quality of the experience and service that they get from the organization. And where we're not doing well, we're able to autocorrect and fix those things. So client essentially help you to continuously improve as an organization. If you don't meet with client, how else do we improve and how else do we adjust what we do and what we offer to them? Secondly, client also help us know where the opportunities are because they'll tell us what their plans are, what they're thinking about, what they are seeing in their own industries and sectors. And that also helps us then to develop appropriate insight that can help channel our resources in a manner that will have the most impact. There's the other side of the coin, which is spending time also engaging with our own employees. I equally put an important emphasis on meeting with our employees, whether it's here at head office, is in branches, is in countries, because that also tells us what are the sort of things that we ought to do and fix internally so that we can impact on the clients positively. I think as leaders, we have to be obsessed with those two elements. Meeting with our clients as well as meeting with our employees. The organization gets continuously better. The organization is able to autocorrect, and we also benefit because we get insight that otherwise would not be sort of excited about or have access to. When you are sitting in boardrooms, presentations are choreographed. People have rehearsed. The information is sanitized. Everything is effectively tailored to suit what people think you want to hear. But if you go out there and meet with people spontaneously, then you get a true sense of what matters to them and how the organization is performing.
I'm actually smiling because I can relate to what you're saying. And one of the things that I've observed about you is really trying to instill this concept of simplicity. And it's something that it sounds easier to do, but very difficult if it's not embedded in the organization. How do you think we can, as an organization, we can actually get to a point where, we are able to simplify our processes, how we show up to our clients, how we do things, how we respond? Because it's something that, it's not easy and it's not tangible. So if I were to ask you to really just give us maybe some practical examples in terms of how we can actually show up as an organization that is kind of simple, there's no complexity, there's no ambiguity in what we say, who we are, and how we do things.
There are sort of a few things that we ought to do. I think the first is always reflect on what's the impact of what I do to the client or to our employees. Because that question will unlock a whole range of things that we can do slightly differently. Sometimes we become so obsessed with our own internal processes, we forget about the outcome that we're trying to achieve. And the process becomes an end in itself. I think when organizations start to hero worship processes over and above the actual impact that those processes are meant to have, then you must know that the organization is going astray and so on. So we should question all the time, why are we doing this? To what end? What's the impact? What's the upside? Shouldn't we be spending our time or resources elsewhere and so on? I think that's the first thing that we have to do until it becomes second nature. I think the other thing that we ought to do is to always think about the client. This organization exists because it has a specific purpose, which is to utilize shareholder funds in order to go out to their original clients, do meaningful things for them, and ultimately create value for clients, for shareholders, and for our employees, and so on. Again, we need to sort of think continuously, are we really true to that which we ought to do as an organization, impacting positively on clients? If we impact positively on clients, you will impact positively on society and within the economies that Absa operates in and so on. There is no way we can be relevant to the African continent as our purpose seeks us to be relevant if we do not do meaningful things for clients. We become relevant through our clients and the things that we do for them. So we should always ask the question, how does this affect our client? How does this affect our own employees and so on? And make that second nature part of who we are, part of our DNA and so on. I think the third is to try and move away from jargon. Bankers love jargon. We create acronyms on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hide behind those acronyms and so on. Let us just say things for what they are in a very simple, everyday language so that everyone understands what we're talking about, understand what we're trying to do. Because it's only when things are much more clearer that people will buy into them and will want to replicate them.
The one thing that I enjoy about, listening to you telling stories is, I mentioned earlier, is the consistency in terms of your messaging. But also I like how you connect the dots in terms of the whole stakeholder value chain. You spoke now about clients, but you also connected that to the important role that we need to play as an organization to impact communities, right? And then in that article again, I think they were asking you about the Gen X and the millennials in terms of how we're responding as an organization. But I really liked your response because you actually connected the millennials to the next clients, looking at it from a customer. And I guess that's the customer obsession that you talk about. So each and every colleague, when you think about your role, you have to actually connect it to the end game is really being customer focused.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to win. It doesn't matter what generation you belong to. If there's something more powerful than rallying people around, it is winning. And therefore, we need to make sure that we focus the organization on winning, on being out there originating clients, and provide the data points that give them a sense of how well are we doing relative to the market. It's not surprising that teams that win, whether it's football or rugby, they have a lot of supporters cutting across a whole spectrum of generations because people want to win and that resonates with them and so on. I think we have to build that culture within Absa and make sure that everyone is focused on winning and so on. I also get surprised when people are paranoid when they think about how do they connect and make the work environment relative for different generations. I said, but we were also young at some point, and our parents thought we were absolutely crazy, because we're energetic, we're having all of these ideas and so on. So why are we surprised when we are now a bit older, when the younger generation is energetic, has new ideas, they put emphasis and priorities on something else and so on. It's just a cycle of life. They themselves will become older at some point and will have to contend with new generations that will be coming after them and so on. And that's just the nature of life. Our responsibility is to create an environment that accepts that the organization must survive through different generations and must be relevant to all of those generations and make sure that the environment is exciting and ultimately that we do not lose sight of the fact that we ought to win now.